So first of all, best dressed.
Thank you. Thank you.
You know, we had a debate internally on like the air of formality that we wanted to bring to this this live stream, and we went back and looked at even your Generosity Experience show and how you showed up and said, look, like we align on so many different wavelengths with Tim in terms of the compass, the Generosity compass, in terms of the live stream. You and I have regular conversations. Tim rocks the tie and the hat. We're going to be a little bit less formal today. So I'm glad that you're showing up this way.
It's only because I've made an intentional choice to save my fun shirts for Fridays this year. Because if you fun shirt it all the time, it's not special. Just like if you tell somebody your $5 gift is so transformative over and over and over, and then you keep coming back and asking them for money, you lose that actual sense of authentic engagement. So I want to class it up a tiny bit, but it's, you know, I prefer, you know, being a little bit more chill. And I only made the face because nobody calls me Timmy. So
I know. But you know, I like to try and get away with things with you. So
yeah. Absolutely. So what are we talking about today, Justin? What's going on?
Thanks for joining us. Yeah. Kate, where are we going to go with this conversation with Tim? How are you going to keep Tim and I on the rails is the first question.
You know, it's going to be a tough job, it sounds like, but I'm looking forward to it. So Justin kind of alluded to it, but a lot of your work is under this umbrella of the Generosity Experience, right? So what does that mean for us in nonprofits?
So that's a lovely question, Kate, and thank you for asking it, because I think one of the things as we've developed over here at Neon One, the concept of what is a generosity experience, two things. One, anybody can throw out terms and be like, we're making this a thing, right? Like we're going to make fetch a thing, right? And so what we are doing is instead putting a name on something that's already happening from a trend standpoint. And where it's really important to understand is that the generosity experience is not the donor's journey, all right? Because you have people, and Giving Tuesday data shows this, Giving USA data shows this, even analysis of things that are not getting picked up like mutual aid networks and you know, neighborhood groups and things of that nature. The generosity experience is ultimately all the interactions, financial, communicative, just humanistically, that build trust. It's really kind of that ethereal trust layer in a way that surrounds all the work that we do, because I've seen way too many things start talking about the power of e-commerce brought to philanthropy. And it's like, no, that actually really misunderstands what is happening here. I don't trust a nonprofit because they gave me a really good e-commerce online donation experience. That doesn't matter. We actually have some upcoming research on recurring giving that will come out in April. Give a bit of a tease here for everybody. And one of my favorite spotlights is a nonprofit. They're a small nonprofit because we focus on the 97% of organizations making under $5 million, right? Everybody who's the 5 million and above, they get all the conferences and they get put into, you know, Dan Pallotta's movie and all that type of stuff, right? And so basically what is fascinating though is that one of the organizations that we spotlight, Turner Society, and they focus, they're a healthcare organization, very small. They have their Butterfly Society, and they're using the old forms that we provide, you know, not the pretty ones.
Not the pretty ones.
And their recurring donors are giving on an annual basis more than their one-time donors. It has nothing to do with the technology. And so ultimately, generosity experience is that layer of trust of all the different marketing, the revenue, and the impact engagements into one area. Yes, can you get really cool and sophisticated with donor journey mapping and things like that? Yes. That's what compasses help you with, right? But at the end of the day, the experience itself is where the humanity lies, and technology's role is just to streamline that. That's it. It's operational maturity when you start designing around that. That's it.
And it's a through line into your virtual conference. It's a through line into the way in which the Neon One brand shows up, the way in which you empower your community. And
yeah,
I love the way that you frame it, because I'll say that there are different dimensions to the way that you just set that up, right? And so even for your own user base, you're constantly talking about and sharing with them ways to think about different dimensions of the way in which they use the product or in which they connect with their constituents.
I sat down with somebody yesterday. I went over to a local nonprofit here in upstate New York. Wanted to get in before the snow hit us. Turns out that was premature. We didn't get any. And so I went to the Connect Center, about 20 minutes from where I'm sitting here. And Ben Williams, the executive director, he founded this after his father kind of bought the building, started building out a church. When his father passed away, he took over the organization. And they have an aggressive goal to get to $500,000 this year, right? So they're 50% growth. They're just hitting about $250,000. And so I was doing some coaching with them, and I even got a whiteboard, because we're focused on, let's get your online donation page just up on the website. Just get it going. And I said, okay, what is the most important things that we could start collecting about people? And they start, and they did the thing. They're like, okay, we're going to collect this information and this interest. And so let's start with their name. Because if you start mapping fields to your database, and those are going into things that have no reportable scale or no insight when something else happens down the line, all the flash, all the pomp, all the confetti being thrown digitally doesn't matter. So we started with the basics and then got to the form and even said, okay, it says, this is where you could put a bit of a headline. What do we want to say there? And they talked about their new mission statement. And I said, okay, let's get that language in here. Yeah. Do we have a photo that exemplifies the feeling that we want people to work? This is the generosity experience that people implicitly understand. This is not a financial transaction. I mean, Next After's done this research too, right? It's anyway. I'm bordering on mansplaining. I'm sorry. So,
well, we're in such agreement around how you build experiences. Really matters.
Get really excited about this.
Yeah. So, well, so you talk about that from the the idea of sitting down with a small nonprofit who is getting to that next step. I think the principles are applicable across the board, though, right? It's thinking about each aspect of the journey from their perspective, not from my perspective as the person executing a campaign.
No, it's not what your board members think is a good idea. It's not what you saw a webinar on randomly that then suddenly makes you think I have to go run out and start doing this flashy new thing. It's where is the alignment of your community of generosity with the impact that you're trying to bring and how you want to articulate that. Because we can even scale that. We even cite a story about Alzheimer's San Diego in our recurring giving report, because we try to intersperse the report itself with actual stories of people. And one of the things that Caitlin Wyan, their database administrator, that she just is like, she gets it. She's a generosity experience designer. I've told her this because that's where I find my excitement is. Like, I don't give a crap. I don't know if we can curse, but like, I don't give a hoot whether whether like a technologist gets it. I care about like me in 2008 getting a job as a grant writer and not knowing anything, and the only book I had was Grant Writing for Dummies and a 300-page PDF of a free database I downloaded. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And so that leads to psychological fear that will keep people up at night. I was waking up in sweats figuring out, how am I going to pay off my Columbia University degree? I went into the nonprofit space because I want to make a difference. And I don't know how I'm going to pay my loans. And so what Caitlin did is, when you get more sophisticated and mature in your operations, you can do really interesting things. So they added to their online donation form a very simple question of, why did you give today? Unrequired, open text field. And then, so what she started to do was even map out the categorization as motivation. Just like what Becky was talking about earlier, is we need to move from affluence to affinity, from even personalization to relevancy.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And so you can do this by getting those indications, the leading indications. I heard it. I was in the green room.
Yeah, you were listening.
And so that's like everything now, in my opinion. Like
God,
that's,
and by the way, that's my favorite question.
Yeah.
Period. Of any question that we could ask any donor is in the moment, halo around the feel good of having just made a gift. Hey, why did you choose to do this today?
Why?
Like that question tells us so much. It gives us so many new points of context to be able to relate to someone.
Even what I drew for Ben yesterday, think of like your pool as the ocean. And on the surface, you know, or maybe it's an aquarium, whatever you want to do, depending on your size, right? So let's go aquarium. If you throw the flaky food on the top, that's where some of the smaller fish are going to go up and do like that. But if you start dropping things and the kind of the bigger, more sophisticated pool on the bottom there is the people who identify with them, your mission as a person. It is that identity-based understanding. Because even if you have a relationship with an executive director, I talked with another ED earlier today where she's same size organization, small, growing, has big dreams. And what happens is that those folks have undue pressure put on them to do everything. I need to show up this meeting. I have to go to this corporate thing because they're going to write me a check for $2,500 and I need to do the photo shoot that took 4 months in order to get that going. And so if you can kind of move away the noise and focus on the depth, you can even get down to a very understandable. This is what I was doing when I was an administrator, a database administrator. I knew in October this cohort of people was going to give, because their behavior is ultimately very, very predictable. And so you need to move away from the situational giving, even past the relational giving, because if the development director gets into a fight with a donor, do you want that to suddenly destroy the relationship with the organization? No. So you got to get it where a person sees themselves in the mirror when looking at your brand assets, as an example.
Good stuff. That's really good stuff.
Yeah, I love the examples you use because it paints such a clear picture in my head right now. You alluded to some things you have coming here in a little bit, but what are some other things coming down the pike for Neon One and the content y'all are creating?
Content. I mean, the biggest thing is our recurring giving report. So that's coming out both digitally and with a launch party at AFP Icon on April 8th. So a few insights that we have there is, for instance, the recurring donor. We looked at over, I did pull it up because I knew I'd be able to say a little bit of fun here. And I see that, Rachel, I see the minutes left. And so about 2,100 nonprofits in the data set, looking at 5 years of data, and also pushing back at the thing that usually Brady Josephson would always point out when looking at these reports. Yeah, but you're just showing year-over-year growth. No, this is a cohort. Everybody had to be in the data set for 5 years to look at that. So 2,100 nonprofits, the largest analysis of recurring giving that's ever been performed. And so thousands of organizations, and so some fun tidbits. And we also looked at revenue size, small nonprofits, medium-sized nonprofits, large nonprofits, insights from people like Dana Snyder, Erica Wastorp, those highlights. But we actually found that recurring giving revenue grew by 144% in that 5-year analysis, even past, so 2018 to 2022. 50% of recurring donors gave additional gifts. And we also have a whole chapter on behavioral insights. We had 12,000 donor notes that we securely and with all PII removed were able to actually look at the time of origin of the transaction. What were they thinking? We looked at that.
That's incredible.
This is like one of the greatest things that we've ever made.
April 8th, it's going to be
utterly free. Utterly free.
Utterly free, which we also love. Like, let's give away the goodness. Let's give away the knowledge, because that helps all of us be better, right? So Tim, you're helping create a rising tide, and we appreciate that. Something that I'm going to take away from this conversation, I wrote it down, as identity-based understanding. That is a major key here. And, we're going to have you on the podcast later in the year to talk about the report. And so we can't wait for that. Tim, thanks for spending some time with us today and hanging out on the live stream. And thanks for the shout out and reference to the Greatest Night in Pop documentary on your LinkedIn feed this morning.
I had to, and I do have to say that Quit Bad Fundraising, that shirt, I'm going to wear that shirt out. It is like one of my favorite shirts. So
we can get you another one. We'll get you back up.
RKD Group, you folks are always so lovely to work with, and I'm so grateful that you allowed me to come and ramble a bit today.
Right back at you, Tim.